Hey traders, Akil here. Welcome back to another episode of the Trading Coach Podcast, the fastest growing Forex trading podcast out there. How do I know? Because we keep bumping up and up and up as far as our weekly downloads go. We're also moving up the list of iTunes and Apple's favorite Forex trading podcasts. And of course, I owe that all to myself for creating such great content. No, just kidding. I owe it to you guys. You guys have been doing a great job of supporting, giving me feedback, and presenting ideas that I can use for future podcast episodes. So keep that up, and we're going to keep growing this podcast bigger and bigger. Now, today, I wanted to talk about some of the differences of working from home versus working in a remote office. And if you guys haven't been following my journey for the last few weeks, I've been dealing with some internet problems, right? My cable provider, a bunch of cable providers had a big deal that happened here in the U.S. where there were the fiber line was cut during some construction, and then the backup line was actually cut too, which is like this 1 in 10 million chance that actually happened. So there's been some cable issues around the U.S., and that took a few weeks to get sorted out. And then after that, I was still having issues with my cable. Connection would go in and out. And as a trader and a trading coach, right, there's not much that we need for our business, right? Trading is a relatively small startup cost. You know, aside from like the cost of funding your account, all you really need is a computer and an internet connection, right? A computer, a data provider, and an internet connection to get your trading going. And that internet connection being in and out hurt me in two ways. One, it hurt my trading, right? It's very difficult. I do my trading from my computer. Very difficult to try to execute real-time trades from your computer when 1 minute you're placing an order and next minute the computer's going out, you can't place your stop, right? It just throws in an extra level of something you need to do in order to get the job done. And I apologize in advance if you guys hear this rumbling sound in the background. They're cutting my grass today. It hasn't been cut in a while, and I'll tell you why. But I've never focused on quality of as far as like the sound quality goes, right? As long as the message is going out there, as long as the content quality is up to par, that's all that matters. So I apologize, but I don't care. I'm going to keep going. So anyway, after they fixed the fiber issue, I was still having problems, and I had a guy come out. He basically tore up my entire house, replacing everything, and the problems still exist. And what ended up happening was there was an underground cable that was basically gone bad. So they had to come over, they had to dig underneath the ground, my house and two of my neighbor houses to reach me, and that process just took a long time. Now, I had a dilemma. I was faced with a dilemma. Do I keep providing what I would consider subpar content as far as running a live trading room, live interaction with clients, and never knowing whether whether the internet connection is going to drop out or not, or do I kind of just wait it out? And fortunately, I'm in a position where I've done pretty good in my trading. I've done pretty good in my business, and I'm able to make these type of decisions. But my decision was I've got to get an office. I've got to find some office space that I can go to in order for me to run my business the way I want to. And this is the first time, right? I've worked from home. I do have offices for the coaching job. I'm rarely in there, but I do have an office for that. But I've essentially worked from home for the last 2018, probably for the last 9 years, right? 9 years. Before that, I had an office. When I first got into investments, I had an office. I had 2 TVs, a bunch of books, and it was an office that I rented out from my trading mentor at the time, or my business mentor, I should say, at the time. And when I was just getting started and kind of following his every footstep and stalking him to acquire as much knowledge as possible. So it was an interesting transition, and I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not. And it made me think of the topic because a lot of you guys have been asking, how do I like it? What are the differences? Because many of you are kind of in the same situation. And I thought I'd do a podcast talking about a little bit of the pros and cons of working from home. Now, Most of the I want to find a good article, right? Typically, I find a good article that can give you quality information, then I give my opinion on it. It was very difficult finding a good article that is relatable because when most people are working from home, they're not doing the same thing as I am, right? They're not a business owner. They're not in the trading business, which is already a really secluded industry, right? Typically, they're working for an employer. They're just working from home. So it's a little bit different, but I want to read you through this list of pros and cons and just give you my perspective on it. And of course, give you my opinion on what I think so far. I've been there for about a week. So one of the pros they give, right, and they give advantages and disadvantages, but I'm just going to read them all together. One of the pros they give is more time with children. One of the main advantages of working from home is that one gets to spend much more time with the children, monitoring their progress, providing them with the guidance that they may need for their development becomes easier. I actually think this is a negative. So I know the article has it as a positive. I actually think it is a negative. I think more time with children, it sounds good in theory, but the thing is, when you have children of a young age, and my son is 3, we have another one coming in a few weeks, he does not understand the concept of work, right? We try to explain it. I'll buy him like a candy bar and I'll say, hey, daddy bought this candy bar, the money he earned from work. This is where I'm going every day and all that fun stuff. I give him stuff when he helps out and try to explain, hey, you just did work. So now I'm rewarding you with, this ice cream cone, right? This is kind of the same thing mommy and daddy do, but with money instead. But he just doesn't get it. So in his mind, if I'm at home, it's playtime. If he can see me, daddy can play. So every time I see him, want to play, want to play, want to play, want to play, want to play. And it breaks my heart to say no, right? I'm telling him, I got to go to work. I'm on a 5-minute break. I just snuck out to get a drink from the refrigerator. He gives me this blank stare like, I don't get it. You're here. Play with me. Play with me. You're not at work. Play with me. And it's kind of heartbreaking to kind of leave your kid kind of crying and pouting in the background as you slam doors in his face. And it's not fun. Now, he knows better than this now, but there was also the time where he would escape, right? Kids go through that phase where they figure out how to get out of places. So he would escape and unlock the doors and run into my office, daddy! And I'm like, I'm doing a video, shh, shh, shh. So that made it really tough, both having the constant interruptions, but also just the heartbreak feeling of like your kid wants something and like technically you can give it to him. I can always just say I'm not going to work right now and I'll go play with him later. But when you're treating your trading like a business, right, you have strict guidelines, strict hours on what you should be doing and a massive to-do list. You need to get work done on your schedule and you can't always give in to your kid's temptation. So that is a negative. It is valuable to, and we'll talk about commute time. I guess that's the next subject. You save some time, so you do get to see your kid during break and stuff like that. But in general, it sounds bad. I think more time with children is actually a negative. I remember Jason Greystone saying this in a recent accountability session that when he made the transition from working in an office to home, he literally had to create a calendar and schedule in playtime. He had to create a calendar. He shared it with his family. He told his 2 boys, hey, this is the time that daddy has allotted to playing with you guys. I'll be out at this time. And that's a very helpful tip for many of you guys that struggle with that. The next is reduction in time travel. Again, this is benefits from working at home. Another major advantage is that travel time is saved. Millions of people waste hours traveling to and from work. In fact, commercial cities have an unbearable traffic during the hours that are aptly called rush hours. And this is big. As someone who has gotten, whose schedule has gotten massively tighter over the years, the number one value I have in life is time, right? I used to always think of freedom as time in a more of a macro type of view where, I want to be able to see my kid do, play sporting events, have plays, science projects at school, right? I don't want to be that dad that can't go to Father Dad Day and blah, blah, blah. So in a macro level, time has always been important to me. But on more of a micro level, again, transitioning to a father from someone that was a workaholic, right? Someone that would invest easily 18 hours a day into just working and working on his craft in order to get good. Having a kid, being a father, being a husband as well, splits that time up a little bit, and you have to kind of dedicate your time elsewhere. You can't watch this movie, right? I can't tell you how many shows I'm backed up on. Me and my wife used to watch so many shows, backed up on shows, movies, video games are a thing of the past. I'm lucky if I have time to sneak out and get my workout. That's kind of the biggest getaway from the house I have. Every minute becomes very important. So and especially sleep. I haven't slept in 3 years because I got a kid that wakes up all the time, right? So every minute is important. So reducing travel time, reducing, say, a half an hour commute to work, that gives you a half an hour of time that you can read a book, that you can watch a TV show, that you can lay into bed and sleep. It's very valuable. So working from home, the fact that you can literally hop out of bed and roll downstairs to your computer and get started, that is certainly a plus to working from home. Now, I will say this, on the negative side of that, there is something about separating the separation of work from life. There is something about that commute that separates work from life. That 15 minutes, my commute's about a 15-minute drive now, right? So the 15 minutes between literally needing to leave the house, getting on the road, parking the car, getting out the car, walking to the building, walking up steps, it's kind of like an athlete where they take a halftime break and you kind of reset. And this is one of the funniest stories I have. This is something I did when I was very new to trading, and I was struggling working from home, right? I had transitioned from the office to working from home for the first time, and I struggled with discipline because, again, I had a home office right in my bedroom. I was living in an apartment with three buddies, so my office and my bedroom were all the same thing, and I would literally just roll out the bed right into my computer chair and get started. And I would do so, and my mind wouldn't be right, or sometimes I'd sleep in, it took me a while to get into the right mindset because there was no shift, right? My bedroom where I was sleeping, right, or my bed where I was sleeping was right next to my computer I was doing work at, so it all kind of blurred together. So for a while, I used to do this, and don't laugh at me, right? I'm not crazy. Some other trader just recently told me he's going to try it, so I no longer feel embarrassed. But for a time, very, very short period of time, I used to wake up, I used to shower up, eat breakfast, I used to put on a suit and tie. I used to leave my apartment, it was a house, but I leave my section in the house and go outside. I would hop into the car, I would drive around the block, I would repark, hopefully in the same parking space. I'd enter the house, and then I'd get to work. And it seems stupid, it seems idiotic. Some of you guys are probably laughing right now, like, who is this clown? But for me, that separation was what I needed to kind of make the transition from sleeping leisure Akil to Forex trading is my business Akil. So that connection of reduction in travel time can also, it's a positive from working from home that you don't have the travel time, but it can also be a negative as well. You don't get that natural reset. Going right off of that, the next one is savings in wardrobe. Not having to maintain formal wardrobe is another aspect of work from home, and that has its advantages. Now, for this doesn't really apply to me. Again, I'm not in the business where I need to be in a suit and tie or anything like that. So I can just show up as is, right? I'm not gonna show up in my little Skype is blown up. Excuse me, Darren, talking about the Royal Ball. I'm not gonna show up. Obviously in my jammies or anything like that, but I don't necessarily have to buy any type of work clothes. I throw on my normal khaki shorts and a black t-shirt or whatever, and I'm good to go. Now here's the big one: saving in office rent, right? If you have a separate office of your own and do not work for another company, working from home can mean a huge saving in office rent. And this is probably the biggest thing I looked at, right? I am a money person. I try to always make the financially responsible decision. Unless it comes to microphones, Jason Greystone will tease me about it. I have too many microphones, just like he has too many drones and whatnot. That's my thing, microphones, okay? You got me. But aside from that, I'm pretty financial, and I'm pretty financially responsible, and I'm pretty frugal as well. So the big thing is if I'm gonna shelf out money to rent out an office, right? The easiest way for me, the easiest way to make money is to save money. For you guys that are kind of new to budgeting, right? The easiest way to increase how much money you have is to reduce your spending. That's always, whenever I talk to people about setting up financial plans and whatnot, not that I'm giving financial advice, I'm not doing that, just giving my opinion. The first thing I do is cut the fat. Cut the costs. Cut the costs. There's a great term called the latte factor, where basically you keep track of everything you're spending throughout the week, right? And do that for, say, a month. Go back at the end of that week, go back at the end of that month, and kind of cross out everything that isn't necessary. And you'll be surprised at how much money you actually earn by just cutting out the dumb stuff that you're spending money on. So when I look at an office and I look at leasing it or renting it throughout the year, say, okay, well, I'm spending this much on office space. If I were home, it would be free. Seems like a no-brainer. So that's something to think about. If you're on a budget, right, and you can't really afford to make any unnecessary, what's the word I'm looking for? Unnecessary. You can't afford to have any unnecessary expenses. It may not be worth looking into an office space when you can work at home for free. You got to measure that balance. Are the benefits of working in an office, is it worth it? Is it worth the money? And for me, it was. Again, I'm having internet issues. My whole business, both trading and as a trading educator, is built off needing the internet. So it got to a point where the pain of not having consistent internet, even if I knew it was going to be fixed in a few weeks, right? Because I believe in giving my clients the utmost quality, and I don't want to say, hey guys, I'm just not going to be here for 2 weeks. That's bad business in my mind. So for me, the pain of paying an extra bill was less than the pain of really tarnishing my reputation as someone that delivers high quality content and services on a consistent basis. Next up is, I'm going to skip a few. There's a few on taxes, and I don't think that's a big deal, because you can write taxes off for an office. You can write taxes off in what we do. You can write taxes off for an office. You can write taxes off for a home office. It doesn't matter. But flexibility. There's a lot of flexibility that comes with working from home. You can decide your own timings and can accommodate other tasks that need to be accomplished. This is a positive and a negative. Flexibility is great. Because you can make your own schedule from home. You don't have to deal with, again, commuting and working around traffic jams and rush hour and all that fun stuff. But just like as we talk about traders, right? The beauty of trading, especially in the Forex market, is that it's a 24-hour market, meaning you can fit your trading schedule around your life. And for you guys that are full-time traders, you can basically set up your trading schedule around whatever you want to do. The problem is this. The problem is that you have flexibility in your schedule, and you can also sabotage yourself, right? So flexibility kind of goes back to the conversation we had about rolling out of the bed. If you don't have to be at an office by a certain time, you can just trade from home. What's stopping you from sleeping in? So I think working from home requires just a little bit more discipline than, say, working in an office or something like that. Now we'll go to the bottom part of this section. These are supposed to be the negatives, but as you guys have seen, I've been doing positive and negatives for both. One is slips into slackness. Since there is no pressure to start work at a certain time or dress a certain way, it's very easy to delay the start of work. Productivity can seriously decrease under such circumstances if great self-discipline is not maintained. This goes into what we just talked about, creating your own schedule, not dressing for the part, not really feeling like you're making a separation between home and work. This can cause you to slack. You need to be a very disciplined person in order to work from home. Another thing is pressing personal chores, right? That life and work separation kind of mesh when you're at home. So, I'll be at home and I'll notice I'll have a whole to-do list with my chores, and I'll find myself venturing out and doing chores when I'm supposed to be working, or saying, okay, I'm just going to take a quick break to get a bite to eat. And I end up cutting trees down outside, right? It's hard to make that separation. One of the benefits that I've found of being in an office, right? I'm a lot more productive, right? Because it's my destination, right? I am going to this office for one reason and one reason only, to work. That is the only reason I'm there, right? Therefore, when I go to that office, my goal is simple. I work, I get everything I need to get done, and then I go home. And I may need to work later at home, right, for certain things I do, like I do an afternoon trading video for our clients where I take them around the markets and I show them what I'm looking at. I do that from home. But as far as the bulk of my efforts, right, I try to get everything I can done at work, zero distractions. That's my only job. So I'm locked in, I'm focused. I get my best work done when I'm like that. And then I can come home and I can do the chores at home, right? It was a lot harder when working from home because I'm the type of person when I write, let's say I'm writing a guest article for a blog, I like to walk around and clear my mind. That's when I do my best writing. I'm a pacer. So when I'm pacing around my office at work, it's, I only have one place to come back to, right? The computer. When I'm pacing around at home, right? I pace. And before you know it, I'm washing clothes. I'm like, what happened? So again, that separation, that's probably the biggest benefit for me. Lack of competitive spirit, that's one they have listed. I'm not going to really touch on that because as traders, again, we're pretty secluded as it is. But I would say this, right? Trading is a lonely world. When you work from home, you kind of lose that. You kind of lose that communication with actual people. We have a chat that runs 24/7 on our website where traders are always talking to each other, and it's great that they're forming those relationships, but it's a little bit different than actually talking to a person. And you kind of need that in your life, I think, as a person. We're getting to the age right now where we're losing that in general, thanks to that little small device that fits in your hand where you can talk to everyone. Jason Grayson, my buddy, shared with me a great caption the other day on his Instagram, where his kid invited his other friend over to play a video game. And instead of like back in the day where, we plug two controllers in, we sit next to each other and play it on split screen, his kid's friend brought over his own TV, his own video game system, and they sat on opposite sides of the room playing each other online. I'm like, that's weird. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but it's different to see. We're losing that communication. So, I get that from coaching track and field. That's one of the reasons I value coaching track and field. I get to be out there away from my computer in the elements. The sun gets to beam on my face, right? The rain gets to tickle the back of my neck. I get to talk with people and interact on a daily basis. And if you don't have that, being in an office space will provide that, and that's beneficial. And you never know what type of connections you make. I met a lawyer the other day. Me and my wife have been needing to get some stuff done. I met a lawyer that can help me out. I met someone that's developing a to-do list, right? My office space, there's a lot of like techie people in there. So there's a guy developing this to-do list app, and I'm like, yep, me, I need that because I'm a procrastinator. Another guy next to me is developing a video game, and there's another guy. What's the other guy doing? I forgot. Something with communication, but it's you get those you get that communication with other people, and it's great. So, in conclusion, right, I enjoy it. It has its pros and its cons, right? Losing time is probably the biggest negative for me. The fact that I have to wake up early, I lose about a half an hour a day due to commute. Maybe even more, maybe about 45 minutes. It kind of knocks me off of my schedule of when I eat, when I drink my coffee, when I get going. That's a negative. But I think I gained that time back in being more productive. The fact that I'm in my office, that I'm away from distractions for the most part, unless you saw my Instagram post the other day where I got caught watching the Tour de France. Luckily, that'd be over. Between the World Cup and the Tour de France, I've been pretty distracted lately. But once that's over, aside from that, there will be no distractions, right? I think that although I'm taking a half an hour to commute back and forth each day, I will gain that back in being more productive. So something to think about. If you're someone that works from home or you're considering it, or maybe you've done both, do me a favor. Please leave a comment underneath this podcast if you're watching this on YouTube, and share your thoughts. There are a lot of people out there, a lot of entrepreneurs listen to this podcast, and they're going through that decision right now. Like, should I set up a home office, still trade in mom and dad's room, or should I get an office and go out? What's going to allow me to be the most creative? So if you share your opinion or even your thoughts, or if you have a question, that's going to be a great help for our community. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you can do the same thing on, if I share this on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, wherever you see it at. But let's get the conversation going. Let's continue to help people out. That's one of the reasons this podcast has been so popular, because it's not just a podcast where I'm talking to you. It is, I am the voice of the community, and the community kind of all gets together and rallies around this podcast and shares inspirational moments, shares advice with other people, and that's how we continue to grow. So keep doing that. Of course, take a second to hit that like button, to share this on social media. If you're new and you're listening to this on, say, iTunes or Stitcher, Spotify, someplace like that, wherever you can, leave me a review, either a few stars or a comment. That does mean the world to me. And I will see you guys on the next episode of the Trading Coach Podcast. Take care, traders.